Welcome everybody to another episode of Confessions of a GroupX Instructor podcast. I've been doing some of these episodes solo and some of them with industry colleagues and people that I might not know very well that are experts in the field that we're all a part of. And sometimes those people are near and dear to my heart and some of my closest friends, as is the case tonight. So hi, Marilyn. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Ellen, dear Ellen.
Oh, we just Marilyn and I just have this deep, profound, inexplicable, transcendent love for one another. I don't even know when it happened or how it happened, but it is real.
It's very real, and it's such an honor to be here with you. And yeah, it's so cool to be included amongst this big vast array of fabulous people you've had on.
Yeah, yes, I know. We've had amazing, amazing, amazing speakers. You're right. And also our listeners are pretty amazing too. It's a great thing, and I'm happy to bring you on. But I I feel like I come into back to the different types of guests I've had on, depending on how well I know them. If I don't know them very well, I try to do a deep dive. I'll look at their website. I'll have an interview call beforehand, and I'm pretty organized in my thoughts before I come on because I don't know them, and I don't know. I just want to be prepared for anything that can happen or anything. But with you, outside of I know that we're going to be talking about freestyle and creativity, and I know what our theme is that we're giving our amazing audience, but I literally have no script. I'm excited to share you, someone I love, admire, and respect so much. I'm excited to share you with the fitness world that I know. So, I guess with that, let me try to introduce you. And I just feel like I'm ill-equipped to properly give you the introduction you deserve. But let me try. Marilyn, I don't even know when we met, but it is years and years and years ago. I mean, I started working at the DAC, the Downtown Athletic Club, I guess 18, 19 years ago, something like that now. And you were just, and still are, the queen. I always refer to you. I did 10 years ago, I did 5 years ago, I still do today. I literally consider you the queen of the DAC. I mean, I'm pretty accomplished in the industry, and I'm pretty accomplished, and I have a name for myself, but you are the cat's meow at our club. You have created this beautiful community. You just are doing group fitness in a way that I've always admired. You used to be the director there. I know you schooled in Juilliard. You are educated, you value education. And then one more thing I want to say about you. When I became the coordinator, because remember I was first an instructor, and as an instructor, all I did is the club is massive. So I would go downstairs. So to those of you that are listening that don't know the lay of the land at the club, the big, beautiful main group fitness studio is down in the bowels of the club. I would just go in, go down, teach my classes, and leave. But then when I became the director, you became someone else to me. I needed your acceptance and approval. I coveted your trust because I knew how important you were to the club. I respected you so much, and you gave it to me. You gave me your trust and your respect, and it gave me wind under my wings. It gave me the confidence to feel like if Marilyn likes me, everyone will like me. I can do this job. Marilyn likes me, the members are gonna like me, and the staff is gonna like me. And then this friendship just started, and it was just sorry, I'm talking way too much, everybody. I'm talking way too much, but this is important that you understand Marilyn's role in my life. So there's this little tiny locker room. I call it the
Oh,
J. I call it, you know,
miss you.
I missed you in the JL. I
The
missed
jail.
much. Like I've cried to you in the JL. So there's this little locker room called the junior locker room, the junior girls. I think it's for like, it's for little kids that are doing
Right.
swim lessons and stuff. And when I first got hired at the DAC, they wanted, I don't think this is any longer the case, but they wanted staff to to use the junior locker rooms.
Right.
Because they didn't want us like undressing and stuff in front of the members, and they wanted us to be kind of separate. And so I always did that. And then I found that, teaching and being an admin is exhausting. And I recharge quietly, and I would go into this junior locker room,
Yeah.
and I would go there when I was spending hours and hours and hours a day at the club. I would go into this junior locker room, and it has like automatic lights that'll switch off,
Yes.
And so I'm sitting there so long, the lights would turn off.
Yep.
Just
Me
not even,
too.
yeah, you I wouldn't even wave. I would just let them stay off.
Yep.
And I just was like trying to recharge my battery, but like somehow Marilyn and I, God, I'm so grateful for this time, but like we had this season of our lives together
Yep.
where we would end up in there together often. And sometimes I needed to cry, and sometimes we would just laugh, but it was like this little kind of respite. There was never really anyone in there but us. But
Hmm.
I cherished those times, and I leaned on you a lot, and I leaned on you even as recently as stepping down from the job. I leaned on you, and you put flowers on my bike. And okay, anyway, so Marilyn's a big deal to me. I consider her like a dear friend and someone that I wish I had more time with on this earth. So okay, anyway, Marilyn, tell them a little bit about you. I cracked you up. It was the truth.
I don't even know how to answer to all of that you just said. Thank you so much, Ellen. I love you. And you earned my trust, and you earned my respect because of who you are. And just for what you've become in the world. And I mean, a nominee for Instructor of the Year, it's about time, like I've said. But I mean, you're amazing, and I've always admired you as an instructor and a human. And I'm not just saying that, it just, the fact that we had that time together in the jail was really very, very special. But you reinvented our program and brought it to life. And so I've been at the DAC for, in June 20th, it'll be 33 years. And I have had the noon time slot Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 32 years. I don't even understand how that's happened. I mean, who stays in one time slot for 32 years? I don't know.
You do. Nobody. You
Crazy.
do.
But anyway, so okay, I guess you want to know who I am a little bit. People want to know who I am.
Tell us a little bit about you.
All right.
And then I'm gonna ask more specifically about like, how did you get started in group fitness? Like, I don't even actually know, to be honest.
Yeah. I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So I started dance when I was a little teeny kid, and they started me because I was pigeon-toed and knock-kneed. And thus the double knee replacement.
Where did you live?
I grew up in California.
Okay.
Southern California, where I never really fit in. I mean, I'm not really a Southern California girl. But anyway, and I went to dance class when I was a kid, and it was a place I could go to escape. I grew up in a pretty volatile home with a lot of alcoholism, and I could go to dance class and just, escape. They put the music on, and then it ended up being where I was pretty darn good at it. So I ended up pursuing a dance career. I knew at age 7, this is what I wanted to do. I got accepted to Juilliard when I was 17, went to school there for 4 years. Then I got my master's degree at UCLA in dance. I found that the actual dance world, and I've related to a lot of your guests about this before, the actual dance world, I didn't really have what it took inside to be a professional dancer. And what I mean by that is I didn't have the countenance. It was extremely competitive. I did dance professionally, but I was so nervous all the time. I was so uptight all the time. I was so scared all the time. And so, I turned to alcohol myself. I it took me down. And I needed to take care of that situation. And I had a spiritual awakening with all of that, and basically landed into group fitness. It's just things took a turn, and I decided at that moment, there's that movie, The Shawshank Redemption. I don't know if
Oh,
you've seen it, but
it's literally my favorite movie in the world.
okay,
I
so
love that movie.
get busy living or get busy dying.
Ah,
And I made a choice at that age, get busy living. And that is still one of my
wait,
biggest
what
mottos today.
triggered that? What triggered that? What was the spiritual awakening? Was there a trigger? Like, was it a
No,
bottom thing? Was it a just a
it's going to sound really weird, but it was like I hit this bottom. I woke up one day and I knew I needed help. And I heard my dad and I heard God. I know that sounds bizarre, but my dad had died
yeah.
and I knew what to do. So I made some calls and I got some help.
Whoa.
And that it was divinely inspired. I can't say that I did anything except for I did jump through the window when the hoop was offered. And
Yeah.
I did make the choice. And I also think being raised as a dancer, dance training gives you a discipline, and an understanding that life is work, like my teacher told me when I was, 7, that you're going to be working on your plie for the rest of your life. And I was like, wow, okay, I'm going to plie forever. I'm never going to get it. But what I liked about that was, you know what I mean?
Like you'll never get it. You'll never arrive. It'll never
Yeah,
be.
you never arrive.
Okay.
That there's always,
Mhm.
you have to work for your next skill, and you have to work, to be better. And dance training gave that to me. So that was given to me. And I believed it when I was 7. I'm like, okay, I'm going to plie forever, and let's just go. So, I think that helped too. And, but when I had that experience, I knew that I couldn't, I wasn't supposed to be a dancer, was the truth of it. I
Mhm.
just wanted it. It was a little kid's dream,
Yeah.
and I just was really good at it. Um, and so I went to a aerobics class, a high impact aerobics class in 1980, maybe 80,
Okay.
maybe 83. And
Okay.
it was this guy named Magic. And it was so, oh my God, it was so fun and it was so
Oh.
energetic, and people were wearing all the 80s, you got to understand it was the 80s, all the high top, things, and the leg warmers, and I was in LA. I went to Jane
And
Fonda.
like the leotards, it was like the leotard era.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and the thong over
Oh,
the top of
oh
the.
yeah, a little belt. Oh yeah.
Good. I
And
would
I went
rock.
to Jane Fonda, but Jane Fonda was not my people.
Oh,
Yeah, they were too, there was Beverly Hills.
yeah.
I was doing better in Culver City. So anyway, I ended up auditioning for this organization where they had, scripted class. And so I learned all the moves,
Okay,
and
like
I did
pre-choreographed.
it was, yeah, pre-choreographed, and I did all the moves, um and I got the gig and I started teaching, and literally 2 weeks later I'm like, I'm done with these moves.
You're
I'm
ready.
like, I'm out,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting pregnant, and I ended up moving to Missouri, and I started a dance program there. I was started a dance program in a college. And that was pretty cool because, it was just a neat experience. And there in the middle of Missouri, I started teaching aerobics in this small little studio where they had those machines where you shake.
Yes,
Yeah,
this is where it all started. I didn't ever
yeah,
know.
yeah. There were women
Missouri?
shaking in these machines, and I'm up there teaching aerobics. It's crazy. It was
Wait, so
crazy.
it was like wait, I actually don't know what you mean. I mean, I know there's like weird, all kinds of gimmicky things like, but you mean there was like machines that you would shake in? They thought they were like shaking their weight off out like in the free weight room, like outside of the group fitness studio?
Yeah, so there's no, it was just a little, this was Marshall, Missouri, first off. So
Okay.
we're talking a teeny little
Never heard
town.
of it, but
And
okay.
and it was, they'd have just they had the little aerobic space, and then they had a few machines around.
Okay.
Kind of like curves, kind of,
Yeah, okay. I'm getting the visual now.
it's a curves vibe.
Or like we used to have in Eugene that no one listening will understand, but there was like that West 11th Women's Only Club, and it had like this little postage stamp group fitness. And okay, anyway, yes,
The
there's
body shop.
machines around. Yeah,
The body
yeah,
shop.
yes.
Exactly.
I taught there for a second. Okay, carry on.
Okay, so it was that, but there were machines that you would hook up to,
Yeah.
and they would shake your weight off. They would, yeah, I tried it just to experience it, but it wasn't for me, because I
No.
don't want to stand in one place. Anyway,
And
that's
it's
where it started.
Okay.
Then I had my baby,
Okay.
did that whole thing. After Missouri, we moved to here to Eugene,
Okay.
and I got a job at the DAC
Okay.
in the nursery in Kid Stop.
No way.
And I went to the University of Oregon, talking about possible employment there. That what I realized for me was that I couldn't be a college professor and a wife and a mom. I'm a little obsessive, and so if I do something, I do it. And in theater and in dance, you're rehearsing all night, so I'm teaching during the day, rehearsing all night, and I have a 2-year-old. I couldn't do it all. And I knew that everybody was suffering. So I got a job at the DAC, and they said, do you want to teach some aerobics? And I said, okay, but the way they were teaching aerobics was very different than what I had been doing. And so I had to learn how to do it. And I just wanted to work in the nursery and be with my kid. I just needed to chill after that whole college thing. So that's what happened. I started, and the woman was the director there, Antigone, and she plucked me out of the nursery and said, with all this dance background, you got to teach.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And so they were doing dance aerobics then,
Okay.
which was low impact, highly choreographed, routines. And so I had to learn, and as a dancer, you don't cue like in the same way. So I had to learn how to put together things, because I was doing freestyle before, which was just, except for that pre-choreographed thing that I had to quit because I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Because I was too boxed in.
Yeah.
So I was doing freestyle, and I was just going literally from the top of my head. Whatever would work together, sometimes it didn't work, and then, oh, well,
You didn't plan.
No.
You just totally flew by the seat of your pants. Did you even know your playlist, or did you just?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
the album I would put on.
The album, yes, the album. Yes.
That's how old I am. Yes.
Wait, can I interrupt you?
Uh-huh.
I just want to say 2 things while you're talking. One, did you know I also started in a gym daycare? That was how I started too. Yeah, I started in the daycare with my kid too, because I wanted so same start. And also I realized one of the reasons we love each other, because I recognize in you are obsessive.
Right.
Obsessed and obsessive, and you're all
right.
So am I. So
that's right.
That's probably something I literally, like, as you were talking, I put my finger on it. I put my finger, because I know how I feel about you. I haven't always known why. I just put my finger.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons. That's one right there. Because you are an obsessive genius. Okay. So anyway, starting in kids club. Okay. So then
I started teaching. I started to learn how to teach dance aerobics. And I had to practice so hard. And this is one of the things I want to say is that, and this was true for me in dance too, I wasn't the best dancer, but I would outwork everybody.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I wasn't.
Yes,
I wasn't the best. So let me give you an example. I had a little 90s class at the club a few weeks ago, right? It was just a special day at the club, and I was doing my spin class, and so I said, can I do a 90s? And sure, do a 90s. So it's a 1-hour spin class.
Wait, this is recently? This
is recently. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, I'm giving you an example.
Okay.
Of how to be good.
Okay.
I'm giving you an example of what it takes for me to be good.
Got it.
So I know I can go on my Apple playlist and I can get one hit wonders,
Mhm.
and I know the class would kill, but it has to have the right flow.
Yeah.
And then it has to have the right, seg between songs, and it has to have the right vibe. And the
Mhm.
songs have to mean something, right? And they have to be, okay, well, this is kind of a kitschy song, but that's kind of fun. But is it too kitschy? So, 4 hours later, I'm ready for my 1 hour class.
Ah! Yes. Okay. So let's dive
Yes,
to the heart. The heartbeat of this podcast is
right,
about freestyling and tapping into
right,
creativity, because we all know, and obviously I provide pre-choreographed content for people.
right.
Some people are busy or don't have the ability or whatever, like some people want it done for
Sure.
them, and some people need to be the creator and the creative, and some people are okay with a little bit of both. But today what we're going to talk about with Marilyn is really the, like, what is freestyling? What does it mean? Why would you, why is it special? Why would you consider investing the extra time into it? And also, like, how do you go about it? So, okay, take
All
us there.
right.
Take
So thanks for honing it in because I can just talk and talk and talk. So,
us.
but here's the thing is that freestyling, so it's funny that we call it that now because when I first started, freestyling was what people taught, which was just it's one of the forms of choreography, right? Which is just one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of different kinds of choreography happenings that one can do. The reason my heart broke when Les Mills came into town
Mm,
because I'm like, oh my God, am I going to have to start doing this? Because what I
mm,
love is creating. And
mm,
I was like, oh no, you know what I mean? My heart just, fell. I just remember it distinctly. And I tried them, and those classes are all good. But
mhm.
I'm like, but I want to add this. And you've shared this too about stuff that you've taught.
Yeah.
So for me, I like to create formats like you. I like to create, but I like to change them a lot all
Mhm,
the time. So
mhm,
I want the freedom to be able to change it up depending upon what music I'm listening to, what movie I see, what I'm reading, what I'm thinking about, what my heart is telling me, what somebody shares with me affects how I choose movement and what I want to do and what I want to experience with others. Because for me, the most important thing is there's this phrase called entrainment. And we're doing the interpersonal entrainment. That's what I do. And that's what we do. And it's like when people gather, like two or more people gather, and it's like a concert or you're at a dance or you're sometimes at sporting events or in our GroupX classes. What I want to experience every day of my life is that feeling that we have when we're in unison together, when the beat is going and we're in unison and our spirits are connected, our hearts are connected, and it could, the exercise is
yeah.
superfluous. You know that word,
Yes, yeah.
superfluous. That word.
Su
That's
su
the
sir, hold on, not superficial, but
yeah,
superfluous?
yeah. The
Yeah.
exercise is just the medium I
I
use.
call it flow state. I call
That's
it,
exactly right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's also a term called entrainment.
Okay, I have not heard that term before.
So that's what I do because I want it to be an event. I want every day of my life to be an event.
Yeah, and that, I mean, just to interject, like, that is something like, some people show up, they punch the clock, they teach their class, they leave. You show up half an hour early. Okay, wait, let me just share this with the audience because it's kind of cool. There was a big long season, years, where Marilyn taught it's a freestyle bar class that she creates. Uh, I mean, this was Friday nooners, the noon time slot. And I was teaching in the cycle studio, and the studio I referred to earlier because there's multiple studios in the DAC, but those 2 studios are right next door to one another down in what I call the bowels, down in the lower level of the, you know, multiple story building facility. And we both have this, Marilyn and I are like birds of a feather. Like we both have this desire to create experiences,
Yeah.
to use your word, every single class. Like it's not a workout. It's
That's
just,
right.
it's creating experiences and bringing energy, and not just bringing our own energy, but facilitating and tapping into the energy of others
Yep.
every bit as much as our own. And so like one day we're always walking down there to get kind of arriving at about the same time, which is early, of course, because you have to be early to create that
Mhm.
and be ready for that and summon it and all of that. But we were coming down there and it was just dead, you know, quiet. No one's there yet but us. Like no one has arrived for class yet. And it's she and I coming down there. And I don't even remember if she said it or I said it. I think it was you. But one of us was like, said something like, are you ready to light this place up? Like we're just down at the bottom level of the club, and we know that it gives me chills, but in a matter of minutes,
Yep.
I still have more chills coming. In a
Yep.
matter of minutes, people are going to arrive for your class, for my class, and we're separated by a wall, but we're going to be creating these energies. And I feel you through the wall. Like I'll be teaching and I like am aware that you're
Totally.
doing the same but different thing right there, right over there. And that you're aware that I'm doing the same but different thing in this studio. Oh, and then Wednesdays it was flip-flop. You're in cycle and I'm in the studio. And it just like I didn't mean to derail your train of thought, but I wanted to say for the sake of our listeners that I've observed countless times, truly too many to count, you creating this experience. And then, you know, we leave kind of together too. And there's always this, like, you just see like euphoria on the members' faces. And it's not about like, it's not even about the workout or our playlist or any of the things. It's just about the experience. Like, it's just about the magic that is the song and the programming and the smiles and the connection and the life force, and it begets more of it. So, you know,
Right.
you've created this incredible like community. And so, you know, it's everyone's highlight
Well,
of the day is to be there.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm interested in. I need community and I need experience, right? And I want to feel that from others. And what's fun is when you get the others invested into that same thing, you know, then the magic happens.
Yeah.
So it's their class. It's not, you know, my class, it's their class. It's our class,
Yeah.
right? It's our class.
Yeah, you're almost like the conductor. Like
That's
you're
exactly right.
like not the like rock star, like we're past that.
Right.
That was in our 20s and 30s. Like
Right.
it's the conductor and they're the symphony. They're
That's right.
the energetic symphony.
So that's why,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying that can happen, I believe, in any format you
Yeah.
teach, but it's up to you or one as the instructor to find your passion within whatever format you're teaching.
Mm.
So and it takes a dedication, I find, you know. So in other words, when I'm creating something new, and it might be, so there's a base I have a base set, right? And then I want to expand on it. And what I might do are these little tricks, right? So even if somebody's teaching in a formatted class and they don't have the quote unquote freedom to change, what they can discover is huge if they try and do things like, what if they did it without music, did the first 10 minutes by themselves without music, half tempo, super slow? What if you tried the first 3 moves, like say your sun salutation? What if you bring your arms up, in triple time, 1, 2, 3, and then pull down, down, down. There's different things that you can experience with changing a tempo, changing a level, changing a direction, that you can then, the move, because it's not just, it's not just learning, oh, this, I'm moving my arm here, this lever is up, this lever is down, I'm using this muscle, but it's the quality of the movement and the shape of the movement. And do you know what the negative space is of the movement? I mean, you being an artist, you understand that. So if I'm doing the O sign, I'm holding my hands up now for those of you that can't
Yes.
see, but it's
Oh,
like the U of O, right?
yeah.
So I'm holding this up. So you see the outside of my hands, which is the O, but what about that circle on the inside?
Yeah.
What can happen with that circle? How big can that be? How small can that be? Can that come through? Can it go back? Can I tip it upside down? So it's the light beam of light's now going up and down. What if it's a beam of light? So if I start coming up with descriptions
Mhm.
of the movement for myself and the quality of movement for myself, then I can add value to the class because it's mine. They're learning, they might be learning your choreography, but they got to make it their own.
That's right.
That's the fun part. And
Yeah.
there's no shortcut to that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It has to be a felt, passionate thing.
I just thought of something I want to say in case we have I'm sure there's instructors that are maybe newer to the industry coming on.
Yeah.
And I just want to give like a big, huge step back and say that it used to be, I think, I think you'll agree with me, Marilyn, that it used to be that everyone freestyled and wrote their own choreography and
That's
created
right.
their own classes and their own design and figured out what moves to put together and how to put them together and what music to do it to and all that stuff and what to call it and what to name moves. And then the landscape really did. You mentioned Les Mills, but that's a great example. I mean that was probably at the one of the very first, but
Yeah.
they just there are now so many pre-choreographed or canned, and of course my programs are among them. There are so many now plug and play, which again serve a totally different need
Yep.
and are wonderful in their own right. But those became more and more and more and more and more and more. So the landscape shifted. So one of the negative things that I think has come out of the shift in the ecosystem of programming, one of the negative things that came out of all of the pre-choreographed stuff is that to a degree it has diminished the need for education first and foremost, because if you're coming up with your own stuff, you have to have
Yeah.
your education. You have to know what's safe and what's effective, and then if you're being given all the materials to teach Zumba or piloxing or whatever, body pump or whatever, there's so many to name, then you don't have to know the why behind or anything like that, because you're just doing what has already been proven safe and effective. So I just know that one of the things that you have mentioned to me and we've talked about is how educated and how expert level the instructors at the DAC are.
Yep.
And what pride the members have in the instructors being kind of elite. And I was just going to make mention of the education piece.
Yeah. It's really true, I think. And I feel like within that, though, there can still be so much freedom, and that I think that people think that they can just learn the class and then teach it right away. When if you actually spend time to explore,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, the best people will outwork everybody. So it looks like this one thing, but they're really doing this other thing. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and you make a good point, because you can take an expert instructor can take pre-choreography, can take warrior rhythm, for example,
Yeah.
and still follow the brand guidelines and still use the content, but still make it put their unique stamp on it and give it a unique expression.
Absolutely. That's totally available in that warrior. That's a beautiful program. And anybody with skills that have been teaching for years can do that. So for the people that are newer, which is fantastic,
Yeah.
explore it. I just think that spending a little bit more time to explore things to be good and to understand it fully is huge. I mean, I practiced cueing so hard. And I think the other thing that's happened is that cueing isn't as necessary in some of the later formats. I mean, that really changed with Zumba. It was like, whoa, you know,
Right.
people didn't even cue.
Same thing with pound. They're like, you don't need a
Whistle,
microphone. Yeah. Yeah.
right. So I feel like that's a real lost art. And in all honesty, to me, that is the thing that commands the class the most. It's
I,
how you cue. It is the thing.
yes, I feel like it is the connective tissue in the relationship. Like cueing is everything. Like it's equally, it's the same level of importance as communication in your
Absolutely.
relationship. Like it is
Absolutely.
communication. And
It is. It
I
is.
I just recently I was teaching recently my nooner because I'm a fan of the
Yeah.
nooner too. I
Yeah.
love the nooner. Oh, give me nooner all day long. I I wish right now I could think of it. Oh, I'll try. But oh wait. Oh, I remember what it is. I'm working on this new choreography and for rhythm, and it's pretty advanced. And directionally, it's a little confusing, especially because they're mirror imaging me. And there's this move where they're gonna turn away from me, and so I'm gonna turn away from them, and they're gonna. It's just challenging, and I'm still trying to. I'm still at the beginning stages of this choreography, kind of guinea pigging it, testing it on my class, and so my cueing isn't like super like dialed in
Right.
yet on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like they kind of like mostly all went the wrong way. They were all lost. Like it was a train wreck. And I told them, I was like, that's on me. Like when 80% of you are doing it wrong, that's me. That's me. If it's one of
Yeah.
you doing it wrong, it's probably you.
That's right.
But it's cueing and it's just it is an art form. And I think the root of cueing is self awareness and hearing what you're saying through the lens of someone that isn't you and putting yourself in the perspective of someone else and trying to, say it at the right time in as few words as possible. I mean, it's just like rocket science. It's rocket science.
Yep. I
But
practice out loud
mhm.
over and over and over and over and over. Practice it, practice it, practice it.
You do still?
No, I did.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I mean, I practiced really hard because I wanted to do complex choreography.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to do that. In order to do that, I had to learn how to break down movement to the basic thing. And then I had to learn how to cue to build it up and
Mm.
to do things. And if you if you have the skill of cueing, it is to me one of the most fundamental things to have. You can go anywhere. You can take a class anywhere if you can cue.
So kind of the why behind freestyle is, if I'm understanding you correctly, is because, well, one, it's an expression of yourself
Yeah.
and all the things in your life. I love that you mentioned like movies and what you're going through, books you're reading, everything. Um, it's it's a way to also keep boredom at bay because you're not,
Yep.
and to not feel boxed in, to use some of your language. And I would imagine to feel, because I've also done a ton of freestyle,
Yeah.
forever. It's a different kind of level of pride. Like
Right.
I created that. They loved it. They did
That's
that.
right.
They were successful, but I wrote it. I did it. Like that. They love that song that I picked. They felt what I wanted them to feel in that moment or
That's
whatever.
right.
So I think there's maybe like just a level of gratification, it's self-expression, keeps boredom at bay. So I think there's a lot of reasons. It's challenging. I think there's a lot of reasons to consider freestyle. And then, so with the how, great cueing, and also, okay, touch on, you were starting to say you build like, do you always start with like a base move or two and layer? Do you always do layers? Do you do like repetition reduction where you do like a move or a series of moves and then you do like cut it in half and cut it in half, that kind of
Right.
what's your
Like
approach?
the pyramid or the
Yeah,
layering, those different
yeah,
techniques.
yeah, like what some of
So,
how do you
I
do it?
mean, I taught add-on for years. I taught add-on for years, which was, you know, do section A and then do section B and do A and B, do it
Mhm.
like 5 times, right? And then do A, B, and add C when I was
Mhm.
doing very, very complex choreography. But now, like with the onslaught of bar class, and I looked at a lot of different bar certifications. When I decided I had to quit doing the DAC Nooners, the dance class I was doing, I looked at all sorts of bar certifications, and I'm like, you know what? I'm a well-trained dancer. I've been in the industry for years. I can come up with this. You know what I
Right.
mean? So, yeah. So what I do is I have like a base pattern.
Mhm.
So I have a base pattern of what is, my base moves, very similar to what you do, right?
For
So I have
bar. For
what
bar.
for
Mhm.
bar. I have base moves. And then what I'll do is decide I want to vary it. And I vary it every week. I vary every class. We do something different every class, and it's not huge. So
Mm.
it's not like I'm teaching a brand new
Right.
thing every class. It's just tidbits here or there, different ideas here or there.
Yeah.
And I always go back
So there's
because
some familiarity, and
yes,
something new to tickle just keep it exciting.
here's what's really important. This is what I learned too, was that I have to have options. So in other words, if the class is pumping and say I lose my mind,
Yeah.
say I forget, say it's like, oh God, that's not working. I got to be able to change like that.
No,
So
yes, I know what you mean. It's almost like this is a terrible thing to say. I mean, it's a terrible like analogy that came to my head, but it's like having a safe word. Like you need a
that's
safe move. You need a safe word. Like
that's exactly right. I probably spent a good 5 to 7 years developing backups.
that's huge.
So I would just work on the backup plan.
Mhm.
So like say I'm doing a class, and this is why if you practice a lot, then you're like, okay, what if I forget what can go on for here? And then I would just make something up, right? And then I'd go back, okay, that's good to know,
Yeah.
right? So what steps go together, what moves go together, what doesn't? How am I going to change directions,
Mhm.
right? Effectively and efficiently. So
Mhm.
you're not going to go, you're not going to go from sagittal to, you know, the frontal plane like that,
Yeah,
right? With a stupid step. You got to work it out,
to be safe.
right? So I worked all that out, and I do that with bar still so that I have options, because what happens is I'm like, I'm going to challenge the class today, and I come in and I have 4 brand new people that have never done bar.
Yeah, right. It's out of our control.
It's out that's it.
It's
Well,
Murphy's law. It's Murphy's law. Like I'm gonna challenge him today and
that's it, and I can't tell you how much time I've spent preparing a class with stuff and then not being able to use it.
now you do use power music, right? Do you use power music?
For bar, I use yes and power.
Yes, and power. Okay, and so I will say that that's also another like tip for the listeners that are freestyling is those 32 count squared the companies today, there's so many, they have great stuff and it is there's freedom and it is easy to kind of correct and navigate and like find the next or hold for 32 or whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely. When you're doing that kind of format with that music. And
Mhm.
so when I first started bar, I actually tried it, and I spent a long time trying to do it to real music, and I couldn't keep this
Oh,
steady state. So
oh,
I didn't work.
yeah. And like, it's like, I mean, this is kind of a story of my life, but it's also not like equal right side, left side necessarily in a song.
That's right.
And you might be like not even and the song will end.
Yeah, yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
Oh,
So, and
mhm.
I taught song to song too, where I would do a complete thought in a song, which is fantastic. But when I decided to do bar, I knew it had to have a steady state and it had to be,
Mhm.
pumping. The
Mhm.
nice thing about yes and power, in case people don't know this, is
Mhm.
that you can create your own lists, mixes in that.
And you can pitch tempo, right?
That's right. You can pitch
Tempo.
tempo. So you can choose, like, it's all, my class is all, well, we started at 125, now we're at 127.
Hmm.
But most bar classes are in 140.
Hmm.
So I slowed mine way down because guess what? I want to work on technique,
That's right.
right? Because mine's a little more dance based. So I want to work on technique and form.
Yeah.
So, but being able to
You're
do,
still working on that plie, aren't you?
that's exactly right. I am still working on that plie, you know, and I am going to be, I'll just say it, I'm going to be 65 in December. I'm going to be on Medicare and I'm going to be working on my
Not
plie.
even real.
So, you know, but yeah, I found that the thing that made it really okay for me is that I could have some agency as to the music and the order of the music, as opposed to just the pre-selected ones, because there's always a few songs I would hate.
Oh, right. I see what you're saying. You can make your custom list. Got you. Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because
I
it's
remember
like,
when I used to teach like body pump and all that stuff. You know, you get 10 songs and there was 100, like there was always like 2 songs that I'd want to stick a fork in my eye. But you have to listen
exactly.
to them a million times to learn them, and I like didn't like them to start with. Like I
That's
didn't
right.
like them on the first listen.
That's exactly right. So
So
that's
that's cool.
that's the good thing about that.
Yeah. Sorry, Les Mills.
That's all right. That's all I wanted to say
You're
was
doing
that you
so
can
much
make your
right.
own, so there's still creativity in it.
Do you want to talk about because I don't know where you wanted to go with this, but did you want to talk at all about cycle, your knee replacements, making a comeback, shifting into Pilates, having the Pilates studio now, and gyrotonics and reformers? You want to say anything about like
Sure.
side, and
So,
how does any of that relate to freestyle?
well, what happened was I was, you know, the director at the club for 5 years. And after, you know, 5 years of doing middle management,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was fantastic and I loved the club,
Mm-hmm.
but I was kind of tapped out because there was nowhere else I could go. You know, that was as far as I could go, as with the kind of authority I had.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's when I remember I was 35 and I was getting injured everywhere. And I
Mm-hmm.
was doing a lot of weights and I was, you know, and I was like, I remember saying to myself at 35, I died. And then I went and I did a Pilates session and I'm like, oh yeah,
Mm.
this is awesome. I just fell in love with it. So I started doing Pilates and I had to go to Portland to do it.
Mm.
And the only place I could go train for Pilates was in Seattle. And I would drive once a week up to Seattle.
Once a week?
Yes, Ellen,
That's
I
a
would
5-hour drive. 6.
6 hour. And here's the thing. I would get done with work at about 4 o'clock on Wednesday, and I would drive up to Seattle, and the training would go from 10 in the morning until 7 at night, and then I would drive home. Wait, is that true? Wait, no, wait. To 9 at night. It went to 9 at night. So it went from noon until 9, and then I would drive home in the middle of the night.
No.
Yes, and then I'd go in and I'd teach I had a mat class. I started a mat class at the club. This was 1999.
Obsessive, I told you. Go ahead.
And I started a mat class there. And I would get up and I would get home and I would teach that mat class. And then I would teach the rest of the day. I ended up at the end of the afternoon, my daughter was an ice skater and I was teaching kids dance and choreography on the ice. And I would be at, I remember 5:30 class and I would have a big box of hot tamales to get me ready for that class because I would die. But I did that
That's
for,
funny, really.
yes. So that's how I got into, how I got trained in Pilates. It was a 6 months. 6 months I did that.
And you just felt like it's what your body needed at the time? Like it was
Yeah,
yeah.
it was very different. I mean, I'd been doing,
Took you 6 months to get your certification?
well, it took a year, but yeah, it took me 6 months to do the training. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it took a year before I was certified.
Okay, and then you started teaching mat Pilates at the
And
club.
then I started teaching mat
Which you
Pilates.
still
And
do.
then I said,
Which you still do.
I think I'm going to give up my position because I'm going to teach Pilates. And they
Got it.
said, and I was going to go with a guy in town, but it didn't hit right. He was going to start a studio, and
Oh.
Sean Healy. So I was going to work with him, and I just didn't want to. It just wasn't right in my gut.
Mm.
And then uh, the manager at the club, who's not there now, said, "Do you want to do it here?" And I said, "Okay." And
Mm.
so I bought a reformer. First, it was in my living room, and then I started in the small little studio. Um, it was before the Newberry building was remodeled, but I was over there.
Okay.
And then one thing led to another. And then I started the studio there, and then I got the equipment
So the
and
Newberry building, you guys, I've mentioned this maybe before, but the club is so massive that it kind of spans 2 city blocks. So it's kind of like there's literally a street, a road in the middle of our club because it's so big. It's on 2 city blocks. You have to go either cross the street, like walk across the street on a sidewalk, or go underneath under a tunnel under the road to get to the other side of the club where there's, administrative offices, there's this Newberry childcare. But there's Maryland has a Pilates studio, the movement downtown Pilates, it is now called.
right.
It's just recently actually rebranded and is going.
Yeah.
In fact, when we close the episode, we'll tell you the Instagram account so you can follow it. But downtown Pilates. So, okay, so then
So then I did gyrotonic training.
so tell us what gyrotonics is, because you've told me like 400 times and it doesn't, do you just get
Yeah.
stretched out on a machine? What is it?
You can't, it's hard to describe. It's a form of fitness training that incorporates spiral movements.
Okay.
So that's the word gyro. So it's very circumduction, very three-dimensional.
Okay.
And it uses very cool equipment.
Uh-huh.
So, and then there's also gyrokinesis, which is done on a stool, which is like the mat version.
And now that was another monumentally expensive and long and exhaustive training.
It really was. It's ridiculous, but the work is fantastic.
So Maryland had, just to give the visual, so in this massive facility that we're blessed to be able to work, we're lucky to be able to work there. It's beautiful. She has the Pilates Pilates gyrotonics. She has that studio, the downtown Pilates is on one side of the street, and you operate that. And then she teaches on the other side of the street, which is where
Yeah. So most of my bread and butter comes from the studio. It's where I'm at almost all day. So, but that's what happened, and Pilates saved my life. Then my knees just getting worse and worse. I had knee problems since I was a little kid because my knees are funky, and they would dislocate, and it was just bad. So my knees gave out, and I remember I was teaching bar sitting down. I could barely walk. I finally did it. I didn't want to do it. I did it.
I remember that I had to. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead. So
Go ahead.
You got the knee replacements, but then I remember I want some credit here because I feel very instrumental in getting your butt back on the bike.
You did.
I did. I feel like I pushed you. I didn't want to push you too hard. I really wanted you back on the bike.
You
I
did.
kind of knew you ultimately belonged, like I knew your soul would be happy, but you were a little reluctant. I don't know, but
Yeah, it's because the surgery and the recovery
it messed you up a little bit.
it messed me up. I'm still a little messed up from it. And I'm good, but it was a situation. Took a long, long, long time. I had all these weird things happen. But anyway, so I wasn't sure about getting on a bike and like how I would feel, if I would feel confident or anything.
Right.
So
You had some like weird, like, I mean, you shared with me.
yeah,
It's okay if I talk about it.
yeah, it is.
You had some like psychological trepidation and fear of falling and some
Yeah.
almost. Yeah, go.
What happened was, okay. So what happened is that I had this very unusual response to the medication.
Oh.
This response to the medication, because I was dosed with medication because they couldn't get the pain. I was on so much medication after the surgery. So basically it didn't take. And so they had this other whole tree. I was dosed with medication, heavy duty medications,
I
you
didn't
know,
know
the fentanyls, you know,
Oh,
a lot for days and days.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so, which, you know, is no big deal, except if you've done, I guess I'm just going to say this,
Gonna go there?
unless you've done hallucinogens in your past,
Mm,
in which case it triggered that,
got
and
it.
which I hated, which,
Ah, like a
so I,
feeling of being out of control or
yes, so I was
oh,
fear struck for almost 5 years.
oh.
So, I mean, like,
Marilyn, I did not know this.
I
I
know, you did not know this.
never told me that before.
Well, here's the thing, I couldn't talk about it at the time.
Yeah.
So like walking across that floor in Studio One
Yeah.
with that shine on the floor, I thought I was gonna die. And I would get there, and then I would just hold on to the chair and I would turn it on and I would teach. And I'd go into the jail afterwards and I would cry. I'd go up to the studio. I would teach my client. I would go into the bathroom where there was all these patterns. I thought I was going to die, and I would cry. And I'm like, I'm going to have to go on disability.
Oh my
I
goodness.
could not drive myself to work because I couldn't cross the street.
Oh, I did not understand. You never shared that. Like I knew that I knew there was fear and trepidation with stairs and even walking across the street. You even mentioned that to me, like
Yeah,
like that it was took everything you had to walk across the studio floor. And here I
it
am
was.
trying to get you to cycle, and you're like, Ellen, it's taking everything I have in my being. And you had like tears, like it takes everything I have to get from here to that stereo. And I thought it had to do with like proprioception because the ligament, like how we have proprioceptors in our ligaments and in our joints and how that all got disrupted. I didn't understand that there was so much more to the picture.
There was so much more. I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't be
Yeah,
that vulnerable at that time.
absolutely.
You know, because you either
So
get
you're gonna
busy,
tell me on a podcast in front of the world?
you either get busy living or you get busy dying, Ellen, you know? And I just didn't stop. I just did not stop, and it slowly got better. And so when you kind of came to me with the bike at that time,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'll try it, you know?
But
Um,
by you trying it, I just would like catch you. I mean, not catch you, but you'd be like, you would be like in there by yourself in the cycle room on a bike by yourself, I think, testing the waters.
oh, definitely. I definitely went in there testing the waters. I was nervous about the lights and you know,
Oh yeah, and I'm like, let's do strobe lights, let's do party lights.
and I'm like,
Sorry.
and I felt so vulnerable. It was just horrible. But you know, we get through our stuff. We all get our stuff. We all get our stuff. And so it's just a matter of you just don't stop no matter what. You just keep going.
So all of that stuff that you just shared that I didn't even know about, almost sounds like it could have been your confession, but you know you have to end the episode with a confession. So do you happen to have another one, or was that it?
Well, I do have one. Well, I have two, but okay. So when I got my job teaching at the club, and the director, you know, would video us with the big video camera, the big giant one.
Oh yeah.
Right? She would video our classes. And so I was doing things that are called shuffles, side, where you kind of go side, 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 like a shuffle side, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle.
Yeah.
And I was telling them to use their inner thighs, and I would have them grab their groin up high and they're shuffling side to side. And when I saw it on the video, when I saw it on the video, I was like, oh my God. And they all the guys, everybody, they were just grabbing right up there and shuffling side to side, but it was hilarious. I was like, maybe not next time, Marilyn.
Oh my gosh, what's your other one? You have two.
The other one is that I cannot do cliches. So like, and I tried to use them all the time. So in other words, like I was teaching one day and I said, well, you can do this like this or like that. It's your cup of water. And they all stop and look at me like, what? I go, well, it's your cup of water. And you mean a cup of tea? I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, all the time. Or like, I have to think about this one. Six of one, half a
Half a
dozen.
dozen of the other.
Right. So I will say things like, yeah, do three of one. It's like three of one or a dozen of another. You know, I can never do cliches. And the problem with that is you think I would know that by now, but I still try and use them. I still to this day throw out a cliche, and the class just looks at me like, oh, if there's another Marylandism.
Yeah, but that is like that is what makes us, you, instructors, is their foibles and their quirks and their oddities, like the fact that you can't do cliches.
Right.
I love it. Well, I am so thankful for your time and sharing your expertise with this amazing community. How can people follow you? What's your downtown Pilates?
Right. It's down Pilates _ Eugene.
Yes.
Yep. And I'm so bad at this, Ellen. So yeah, that's where they can find me.
No, you've gotten so much better.
I know.
Like she does reels and everything. Like
I
you
am doing reels
great
now.
reels.
Yeah,
You love
yeah,
it. It's because it's a creative outlet. That's why I love it too.
yeah.
I love reels. Like we've talked about this. I love it. It's
Reels
creative.
are the best.
They're so fun.
So that's probably the best way, because that's the one I'm on the most.
Okay, so we're gonna leave everybody with just this, encouragement to consider adding some freestyle technique, even if you do pre-choreography. It just means put more of you. Think of new ways to present you and what you're doing. And I can't think of a better guest, Marilyn, than you to bring this topic to us. So it's nice because it's different. We haven't talked about freestyle before. And it's something that the industry we're seeing less and less and less of. I love looking at group fitness schedules like all over. Like I love looking at different club schedules and seeing what they offer and when. And you see less and less freestyle these days and more
Yeah.
pre-choreographed. So thank you. And thank you to our listeners. And we will see you next week.
Thank you.